Welcome, all you ghouls and goblins, for a midnight edition of the ABJ Podcast. If you're listening to the audio, this doesn't mean anything to you, but we are live right now at 12 a.m. at night. The Moonlight Sun has requested a late night podcast, and who am I to say no? He's the champ. He's a champ of HTW, and the champ gets what he wants. So we are here tonight for episode 38 with Mike Skyros. But before we get into any of that, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. All links below to support the ABJ Podcast are below. So if you guys want to grab some merchandise, if you want to support my guests, their links are below. Follow them on all social media. That's what you should be doing anyway. So if you're listening to this podcast, links below. Go follow them on everything and be like, hey, I heard of you because of this podcast. And then they become your new favorite wrestler. And that's how it works. That's the goal of the ABJ Podcast. But I want to give a huge shout out to Kai from the Discord for making this brand new logo that is available right now. So if people who are listening on audio, you don't see this, but the people who are at home are watching this on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch. It is the duct tape ABJ shirt. So I get told all the time I kind of look like Kevin Owens. Some people say I sound like him. I don't know about all that, but that is the ABJ duct tape shirt. So it's there. You've asked for it. Here it is. I'm excited. I actually really like it a lot. I kind of want to rock it. The duct tape Kevin Owens is one of my favorites as well. So you can go check that out. Want to also thank our sponsor, which is down in the corner on that side. Elevation 1470 is reinventing the style, bringing traditional and nostalgic apparel to Frackville and the surrounding areas of School County. They pride themselves on hometown heritage and community. Elevation 1470 is where the trail begins, and you can find them at www.elevation1470.com to find the latest in traditional and nostalgic style clothing of School County, Pennsylvania. And if you use code I love ABJ, spelled out LOVE ABJ, for 15% off your entire shop for the month of March. So go and support them. Go buy some cool stuff. They are about what I'm about, supporting local and helping smaller businesses and smaller people who are creative. So we have next month Eric Pinhat, Brad DeMayo coming to the podcast. Then we have Nathaniel Cunningham and Mary Elizabeth. I think around on Facebook it's out there. So if you really want to know future guests, it is out there on Facebook. I didn't post it anywhere else yet, so that was exclusive to the Facebook people. But the entire next month has been released. We'll go over that as the time comes. Clips have been doing great. Trying to do 2 episodes a week for clips. So 1 episode in the mornings, then I post another one later on night. So the clips are getting caught up because we're on 38, and I think I just posted episode 21. So I got a lot of catching up to do. But that's just the housekeeping. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. I think we're 50 plays away from 700 plays on the audio side. So if you are there, thank you guys so much. Make sure you hit the star reviews on Spotify as well as Apple and type something out there and leave a cool review on Spotify. You have to hit the little questionnaire that says, what did you think of the episode? Tell me what you thought. I'll start reading them off on the episodes and getting more interactive with you guys on the audio side so you don't feel like you're left out if you're not watching live. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for our Midnight Society here. We got our cards out on the table. We're going to read them all. The Moonlight Sun, Mike Skyros.
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing this. It's long overdue. We've been rubbing elbows on the indie scene for a little bit now. I'm a big fan of what you do. When I found out you were becoming the champion of the high tension brand, I was very, very excited for you. And you've been repping and honoring that like a true champion should. And I'm just proud of all your accomplishments, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, the whole high tension thing was a surprise to me. Becoming the champion, I didn't expect it, but it's been very cool, and they've treated me.
I can probably tell you without. I don't know the answer to this, so this is just my speculation. But you know where I think you might have earned that high tension championship?
What is that?
The Sanctuary.
Okay.
I think your performances at the Sanctuary, you did a spot or two there, and then you did a movie at the Sanctuary that's no longer in existence. But I think you're showing in those 2 places. A lot of the high tension people were present that are in charge of that, like Alex and stuff like that. And they spoke very highly of you. And then I think when they decided to start the new champion, I think you have a great look. I think you conduct yourself very well, and I think you take yourself very seriously as a talent. And I think that was all seen. And I think that's probably why you're the high tension champion, which is all great qualities.
It's been very cool.
That would be my guess. I could be completely wrong, but I know those guys pretty well. So I think that's probably where it came from.
You know what? Like when you say it like that, it makes sense. Because it's been very cool. And it kind of came out of nowhere for me. So I'll have to simmer on that a little bit. That makes sense, but I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, that's probably where my guess be of where it came from. People in the chat, thank you guys for hanging out. I kind of put your comments up, but I did not forget about you. People are already saying, "Where's your strap?" They're asking where the title is. It's all right. I'll fill time. Look at the Zuba pants. Look at this guy. All of his fan art back there, making the guy leave his house to get his belt. No, he has a special case he puts all of his belt in. But here it is. There it is.
I don't have to go very far. There it is.
I got to hold that this weekend. That was pretty dope. Yeah. I didn't know that was a ring announcer's duty to go and get the belt off the ref and then bring it back.
Now you know.
That was my bad. First time ever doing it.
Yeah.
So let's get the two basic ones out. Let's get that train rolling, and then we'll just have some fun here. Cool. What got you into professional wrestling? Has it always been something that was in your household, or what was the first time you experienced it and you fell in love with wrestling?
It's funny because a lot of people I missed the Attitude Era completely. I missed WCW completely. Wrestling was around. I was aware of wrestling, but I never watched it until I went on a vacation with my family to Niagara Falls, Canada in 2002. And this was right around the time they opened it was the WWF zone. And it was they had merchandise and they had a lot of promo packages rolling around, and they had a ride too called the Pile Driver that dropped you elevator drop. Yeah.
Wow.
Down. There's still the remnants, at least the last time I was there a few years ago, of this store there. And there's handprints and signatures on the wall, including one former wrestler.
On the Niagara side of Canada.
Yes.
I never even knew this existed. I bet you BP knows all about this.
Yeah. So you can see all the handprints and signatures of the guys that went for the opening, and one is crossed out. And a certain crippler, is they don't want highlighted. But anyways, to get to this point, I was going to Niagara Falls for a vacation with my family when I was a kid, and the hotel, they just had this channel that was rolling all different promotional material. It was doing a hype package from the most recent Raw, where Jeff Hardy wrestled The Undertaker in the ladder match for the Undisputed title. And I was enamored by that. I'm I'd heard of wrestling, but I'm yo, these guys are crazy. They're doing all this cool stuff with ladder. This guy rides a motorcycle. I was completely taken aback by it. So from that, I sought out wrestling, and I fell down that slippery slope, and here we are today.
Nice. So when you said how old are you at this time?
I was about 9, 10. Yeah.
Now from there, was it just an obsession the whole time? The toys, the video games, everything like that, watching it weekly? Yeah,
I did what I could. So like a lot of kids, we didn't always have cable. We didn't always have the channels that it was on. So I found it where I could find it. Yeah. And then the video games were actually very helpful because especially during the times when I didn't have the programs to actually watch, I would just mess around in the video games and get
video games and toys can be a huge catalyst for people who don't. Especially back then, the only way you can really know what was coming on TV if you had a TV guide, and kids weren't reading TV guides. You know what I mean? And
they would teach you about the wrestlers too. You would learn all their moves and they would have their history, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I was super into all that stuff. I don't think I ever stopped being into all that stuff.
So as a kid going through, middle school, high school, what type of kid was Mike Skyros? Were you a popular kid? Were you an athlete? Where did you fall into? What group of misfits?
I kind of just consider myself a face in the crowd, honestly. I wasn't super far into where you could say oh, I was a nerd or I was a jock or I was emo or whatever. I had friends in different groups, and I played basketball, I played a little football, a little baseball, but I wasn't that dude that was super into sports. So
would you kind of say you're someone who blended in, just kind of stayed under the radar?
Yeah. And it wasn't I wasn't one of these people that was outcasted, but I wasn't one of the super popular people. I was just kind of
okay. You're like a mid-carder. You're a mid, That's probably where I was, honestly.
I was a nice United States champion in high school.
Yeah. That's probably where I sat. For a while there, I was bottom tier. I was one of the kids getting picked on. I played sports just so I can fit more into that middle tiers where I bumped from getting picked on and beat up to oh, he plays sports now, he's okay. And I became the butt of people's jokes. So I would make fun of myself to all right, they're not beating me up anymore. So that's kind of,
Yes.
I was in that. Yeah, I was in that area. But out of high school going into college, that time, is that when you got into your wrestling training, or where is it when you started that wrestling training, and how did you find your first school, and what school was it?
Yeah. So I've remained at that school to this day. I try to train in as many different places as possible, just to get, I think it's very important for people to get different points of
Become
view.
well-rounded.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I still train at the Institute of Pro Wrestling in Syracuse, New York, under Zachary Springate III and Isis FX. And we've bounced around to a few different locations, but it has always been that school. And how I ended up there was there was a promotion in upstate New York that was very prevalent for a while called 2CW Squared Circle Wrestling. And the school was affiliated with promotion. And I didn't know anything about independent wrestling, but at some point, one of my buddies became aware of the promotion, and then after going on their website, he learned that they had a school. And we were doing the thing where like all kids do, like you do wrestling moves to each other on the trampoline and like do like little backyard wrestling matches and stuff. But it wasn't anything too crazy. And then we were like, man, let's give this a shot to learn it right. And we showed up at the school, and once I like got in there, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna give this like my maximum effort and see what comes of it.
Yeah.
And that was in 2012.
Wow. Yeah. That's why I said I didn't realize how long you've been around. I think the first time I experienced you was, I think it was either the Sanctuary or Camp Leapfrog. I can't tell you which one came first, but I remember you came to either one of those places, and I was like, oh, you have a really cool like gimmick, like, because at the time I was doing like the paranormal podcast, so I was learning about tarot cards and stuff like that, and I was actually incorporating a lot of my new knowledge into your like stuff on commentary, especially at Sanctuary. Like, oh, he read the cards tonight and it says it's in his, like, I know they're not future cards, but no one knows the difference, so I was just putting in commentary. You know what I mean? Like, but and I was like, oh, he has a cool thing. And at the time your hair wasn't as long, and you were, I wouldn't say you're not as much as you were before, but at the time you were like a high flyer, a little more of a high flyer, and now you're bulking up, and now you're becoming like a little bit of a hoss. You're hossing people around. You're becoming like the strong man of the ring. It's just kind of dope to kind of see you evolve in such a short time as well.
It's funny because I've never positioned myself as a high flyer. I think I just gained weight and I felt more emboldened to do power moves, or more people let me do power moves to them.
Well, I would not be a high flyer, but you were speedy. You definitely use your speed and agility. You were you were agile, speedy.
Yeah, I don't want people thinking I can do flips because they'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
But I think it was the Sanctuary, because I think it was Sanctuary, then Leapfrog, if I remember correctly, but I could be off.
Yeah, it's one of those. I know one of BP's favorite moments of you is when me and BP definitely cut a lot of our teeth at Camp Leapfrog and Sanctuary when it comes to filming and doing production, and then going from there to commentary and backstage interviews with BP. But one of his favorite moments is when you and Blackstrom were vampires.
Oh my God.
We talked a little bit about this weekend. That's one of the highlights, but that Leapfrog was I don't know, Leapfrog and Sanctuary for me, I really like those places because it really developed your people's characters, and like getting outside the box, or maybe trying something they didn't know they were into, and acting and doing bits and skits. Cause I think a lot of people just go out there and wrestle, but then they miss that character development part, you know?
I absolutely agree. And I wish I had gotten into Leapfrog earlier, actually, because I missed a lot of like, I got to get in there like kind of at the tail end, and it was still a lot of fun times. It was still like very much like kind of that summer camp environment with wrestling, which was super fun. But I wish I got in there earlier because there's a lot of cool people at Leapfrog, a lot of talented people, and it is a completely different vibe and approach than a lot of the shows that I am on throughout the Northeast. And it tests your skills and flexes different muscles in terms of that character presentation, which was very challenging, but like that's what I'm looking for at this point.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you said that, because I want to say it, but I'm definitely not saying it as a knock, but I think your in-ring is there, your look is there, but it's just like, and I think the first time I really had this, where this is really something that was brought to your attention, was Sanctuary. You came for what was it? What do they call them? Proving Grounds.
Yes.
And Trotsky looked at you and said, you have a great look. Everything about you is perfect. But what is the Moonlight Sun? What is the character behind this? And I just remember being like, that's the best thing. I fucking like. That's the beautiful thing about Sanctuary. Anywhere, like commentary, cameraman, like he's not hurting your feelings, but he's not afraid to be like, this is what you're weak at, and he knows. He's very intelligent with it. And I remember from then on, that was kind of been like, all right, let's get this done. Like, and you've been slowly finding yourself, which is fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's still absolutely work in progress, because I've had conversations with Trotsky very recently where I'm still chipping away at a lot of this stuff, and I'm very aware of that. And it was funny. I avoided the Sanctuary for the longest time, and I've spoken with John about this, so I don't feel weird about saying it. But I thought he was a jerk for the longest time because of different factors and the way he approached certain things years ago. But when I got to, he's like, hey, just give me a chance, talk to me, work with me, and decide for yourself. And I can understand why certain people don't like him because how he was in the past, but he's been very kind to me, very helpful to me.
Yeah.
And he takes a lot of time for other people, especially if he thinks you have anything. It's very intense, and it's very like relentless the way he approaches trying to improve on what you have to offer, but it comes from a very good place.
Absolutely. And listen, Trotsky would be the first one to tell you with his past demons and the things he's went through that he wasn't a great person to be around, but he also was going through his personal struggles and his personal demons. And that's somebody I want to have on the conversation to bring this to light and talk to him about it. But his passion for the business and his love for what professional wrestling is never died. And if you, like you said, if you go in there and you come in with a good attitude and you work, like it's not the same Sanctuary that people told me to stay away from for a very long, like that people talk about in the past, that it is right now. I personally fucking love going there.
Likewise,
I wouldn't be anything I am or have the confidence I have or fine-tuned a lot of the things I do when it comes to production or commentary or anything like that if it wasn't for a place like Sanctuary and High Tension. They're both been instrumental for me.
Yeah, and that, again, they offer, whether people like it or don't, and the flavor of wrestling that High Tension offers is not going to be for every single person, but it is different. And I think as long as we stay within the realm of wrestling, different is good, and different makes money.
Yeah. So one of these getting in early on Camp Leapfrog and High Tension, which I totally agree with. A lot of names have come through Camp Leapfrog. A lot of big matches have come through Leapfrog. Your current GCW champion had bangers at Camp Leapfrog. Warhorse was at Camp Leapfrog one time. Effie has been at Camp Leapfrog. But one of the people who almost every single one of those names that come through, they had to go through a person, and that was Edith Surreal, who has been a staple of Camp Leapfrog, who has been a staple of High Tension wrestling and the independent scene. And she is an absolute beast at what she does in the ring, and she's so extremely talented. And you just crossed paths with her this past weekend. Walk us through facing someone like Edith Surreal.
Yeah, no matter how much as a wrestler I look into, like I watch tape of what people do, or I'm around them in the locker room, or watch their matches from ringside or the curtain, you really don't get an understanding of where they sit skill-wise and exactly what they bring to the table until you're in the ring with them. And especially when you're in those moments where like you don't know what's going to happen next, and anything can happen next. And I learned a lot about her as a wrestler person. I didn't have any sort of like negative opinions about her going in. I thought she was very talented, but she definitely impressed me because my goal in that match, and when people see the match, whether they were there or when it drops online on YouTube, I really wanted to like push her and test her and try and find her breaking point, because I don't know, a lot of people approach wrestling like it's like, I don't know. I think I approached wrestling with a different intensity than a lot of people, and I wanted to see how she would handle it. And she handled it very well, and she brought it back to me, and I was very impressed. And I can't say enough good things about her.
There's been 3 people in your title run, and this is not a knock to other title people who have won for your title, but there's 3 people that have taken you, I felt, to, I would say, the deep waters. Sean Carr is someone that immediately comes to mind. He took you to some deep waters. You had to he focused. He knew you're agile. He knew you were quick. He knew your where your finisher came from. He knew a lot about you going into that, both being New York boys. And he worked the knee, and he did everything he possibly could to make sure you couldn't get up for that skyfall. Akira is someone who pushes a very, very fast, strong style pace. He's going to hit you in the head as hard as many times as he can, so you have no idea where you are. And Edith is like kick-ass, where no matter how much you give it to Edith, she will not go down, and she's going to keep fighting back. I mean, you look at her wars with Effie and Masha, where, they're killing each other. And I think all three of them have been amazing talents. And Edith being the most recent, like, you went into Edith in her hometown of Philadelphia, and essentially her promotion with High Tension of being one of the faces there. And I think it was a good accomplishment and a good move for you going forward as the champion of that brand.
Yeah. Additionally, like with her, and this is more to the locker room as a whole, especially because I was a late arrival compared to a lot of them that pretty much came up in wrestling together and had a lot of shared experiences. I'm going to preface this by saying no one has been impolite, rude, treated me any differently, but I've always had the chip on my shoulder at High Tension and Leapfrog of, like, there's kind of the High Tension originals locker room, all that. And then I feel like I'm kind of over here a little bit. And I think I've used that to my advantage. But I also think that to a certain amount of people in the locker room that aren't as familiar with me or didn't come up with me, that I feel like I have something to prove. And she is one of the head people of that group. And I really wanted to prove to her, like, yes, I'm champion for a reason. Yes, I'm this good. And yes, I can hang. And more than that, I can run faster than anyone you put me in front of in that locker room. And that's just
fantastic match. I can't wait for that drop for you guys to check it out.
I'm gonna watch it. I can't wait.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of that show, so I have to go back and watch it. I was in a haze, but so that was unbelievable. I can't wait for you guys to check it out. Now, going forward, we found out through a number one contender match, your next opponent is going to be Tommy Vex.
Yeah.
So all those amazing, talented people, and now you have to deal with Tommy Vex.
Yeah, I mean, he managed to climb his way to the top of the heap somehow, by hook or by crook, I guess. And
I think it's the genius of Mary, as Mary Elizabeth is essentially the genius, and she knows how to get her clientele to the top, regardless.
I mean, she's definitely the brains of the team. I'll say that.
And the looks.
Yeah, I mean, the bar isn't very high on either, but yes.
Mary Elizabeth, our final guest of the month, so I can't wait to run that by her.
Please ask her if she's goth too. She loves that question.
Definitely goth. Well, emo, but it's in the same ballpark.
Yeah, same genre.
Like goth is like left field in the game of baseball.
Yeah.
But it's on the team,
Yes.
But he poses a little bit of a challenge without kind of putting cards out there, but he's someone that will do whatever it takes to win a match. And you have to have hot eyes in the back of your head. So that's something you got to prepare yourself for going into this match.
Yeah. And the thing about him is, I think to a degree, he assumes that I don't know that about him. Like, I feel like he thinks he can get away with more than he actually can, because I try to walk the straight and narrow at High Tension as much as I can, but there are times where I've definitely not been a saint in wrestling. So, and I've been wrestling longer than Tommy, so I know plenty of tricks of my own. So if he's going to try to pull something, he's got to at least make it good if he's going to slide it past me.
Yeah. Like
especially
you said,
for that championship.
Been around a long time. You're currently also a champion at Excite Wrestling.
Correct.
Which is another great promotion. That's another place where who did you defeat for that title?
I defeated the Remix Kevin Bennett for that championship.
Now, this is how long it's been since I followed that promotion, and no disrespect to them, but it's just hard to follow everybody. At one point in time, you're one of the guys we talked about here was the former Excite champion, Sean Carr. Yeah, and I still look at Sean, for better or for worse, as the face of that promotion, because he's been the face of that promotion for 10 years. Yeah, Sean, for me, so my first independent show was AXW when they were
Mhm.
AXW the first time in a firehouse. And then I was like, okay, that was a cool show. And then I didn't really do independent for a while since. And then I went to my first PPW show. And PPW was
Yeah.
a little bit of a grander stage. It was at Holy Family. It was at a giant church, giant gymnasium, bleachers, like just a really cool environment. And
Mhm.
the name in that show that stuck to me, and I was like, yo, this is gonna be my favorite indie person. And I stapled this, like, that's my favorite indie star. It was Sean Carr.
Yeah.
He was head and shoulders better than everybody around him. His character work was unbelievable, and he pushed such a pace as a professional wrestler. I was like, this dude's the GOAT. And then he kind of left PPW, and I didn't see him for a while. And then he grew his hair real long, and then
Mhm.
I started watching his cousin wrestle. And I went to a show up
Yeah.
there at Excite to go see a punk show. And then I walked in, I was like, oh, I know people here. Like, it was kind of
Yeah.
cool to step foot in that New York scene. But yeah, someone that you're saying is no joke there. So that's someone you have to keep an eye on again coming up to that Excite
Yeah.
scene.
I mean, I'm wrestling Sean on cheap plug April 8th for the Excite heavyweight title in a ladder match, which is his match. And after I beat him in this match, he's not
I
going to
watched
have
him
anything
win
else to
his
lean back
title
on.
at PPW on a ladder match.
Yeah, he's Mr. Ladder Match in terms of like the scenes we run in. So that's going to be, his put up or shut up moment, and I plan on making him shut up.
He won the ladder match because the ladder was pinned on his chest. So the
Yep.
guy walked up the ladder to win, and Sean shook it, and when he was taking the belt
Yep.
up, it fell and landed in Sean's arms. So he
Yeah.
won the ladder match because he was holding the title on the ground and the guy was on top of the ladder.
Oh my
I
god,
thought it was so dope.
it's smart.
Yeah,
Dude,
and
he's very
the
smart. He's very
hated
talented.
heel. He was the hated
Yeah.
heel against the biggest baby face in the company, and I
Yeah.
fucking popped. I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, that's the thing. I'm not going to take anything away from Sean. He's very talented. It's just like we just keep butting heads because,
yeah.
and that's
He
part
could
of
be
the reason why
crafty too. He could be real
he
crafty
is.
too. Yeah.
But I mean, that's one of the reasons he's, he should be on television right now. He should be contracted, but I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds. But like, he attached himself to crappy people, and that's why he's not farther, and that's why we're fighting. That's why we're going to continue to fight. But
Love it. What day did you say that was?
April 8th.
April 8th. Is that a
Yeah.
Saturday?
It is a Saturday.
April 8th. I'm not booked for anything that day, so
Come on through.
I might have to drive up to Binghamton, right? It's up in Binghamton?
Johnson City, New York, but like greater Binghamton. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like right by in that mall.
Yes.
Yeah, I might have to take a drive up, come up and see that match.
Come on through.
Coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put that on my calendar as soon as this is done. But
Awesome.
so yeah, you're in the Syracuse scene. You've been all through there. We'll kind of lump this into one question here. So the Syracuse scene, as well as you've been in the Jersey scene, you've been in the the Pennsylvania scene. Who are some names that you have worked that are memorable for you? Like, okay, I squared off with this person and it was a good, like, something that's a stick to you, like some names that people should look up or that you've learned something from or have bettered you as talent.
Yeah, so I'm gonna position this as like you just ended it was perfect. Like guys that a lot of people might or might not have heard of from the independents, because I've been very fortunate to face off with like people who've been on WWE television and all that.
Yeah, all that they can definitely be in those names as well if they're people you wanted to work. Yeah,
but guys that have really tested me, big time Bill Collier, who is out of Erie, PA. He wrestles a lot in Buffalo, in Erie, Pittsburgh, Hamilton. He's probably, I mean, it's hard for me to think of anyone better that I've been in the ring with. He's like Western New York Undertaker, basically.
Oh, wow.
He's ridiculously talented. I would also have to say, I just talked about him recently, Bobby Ocean out of Tessa Strings Wrestling, but he wrestles in New England. He's been wrestling 20 years, but somehow he's been kept a secret, and he's excellent. He doesn't get the fanfare that a lot of other people get. And I'm also going to have to say, I got to end it on a good one. Someone I just wrestled in a taping today, actually, that I think is one of the most multi-talented people I know, named Maddock. He is out of the Rochester area, but I see him in all of upstate New York. I see him in New England. I see him in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. And he's been very generous with helping open a school with Cheech, Colin Delaney, Nick Ando. Chris Worthless, and they've helped bring another new crop of students. So I'd say go check out those 3 guys. And of course, check out everyone in my Syracuse crew too, because they're on the phone as well.
Yeah, that's definitely an area I don't know a lot of people. I don't know a lot about up there. Like that, the New York area is where I definitely have to tap in more. Like I definitely like when I say like I'm not saying I'm an expert of the scene, but I definitely know my Northeast scene pretty well. I'm learning the Jersey scene right now. I made some connections at the con for some Delaware, so maybe it's that once he's W, I can kind of head up there, and then that women's promotion they just started with that I'm excited to go check some stuff out. I know I'm going to be going to a show up in New York for the Win, which is the SAT promotion. So I'm going to see some New York talent there. Excite, start going to see, because I'm slowly backing away from taking bookings as a commentator. Or like, I know the commentator is really fun and I enjoy doing it, but I think when it comes to me as a content creator, I think I'm missing out a lot of opportunities to see talent and really put my stake in as like someone who respects the indie scene, because it's hard for me to, when you attach yourself to 4 or 5 promotions and every Saturday you're booked, to go out and see more people. You know what I mean? And I can watch stuff online, but it's not the same. So I think me kind of stepping away from some of those roles and growing myself as a brand and making my brand be seen, I think is important to me. And especially like working with Mike and Riley and traveling a lot with them. Hey, I'm booked for a show in Maryland this week. And I'm like, well, I'm not booked because I have no, let's drive down. Now I'm seeing a promotion down there. Now I'm seeing a promotion here, and I'm getting to see all these really cool stuff. So it's definitely I'm working on, especially coming up this summer. But a match that no one can see because it doesn't exist anymore. But I would love for someone to rebook it and do this match. I thought you and Devontae had a really good match.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. He's very different than I expected him to be as both a person in wrestling and a positive. He brings a lot to the table. I think, like, obviously his look jumps off the table when you see him, but I've been in the ring with a lot of really, really good people, and he's definitely towards the top of that. And I think his ability to talk is very underutilized, and I would like to see him more places. I don't know if it's a thing where he needs to consciously broaden his horizon or people need to take a chance on him, but I think he could knock a home run out of the park.
You could build a company around him. He's so in, like, I mean, I never really felt his strength, but he just looks like someone who's so incredibly strong, and he's so quick and agile too. He moves like he doesn't move to his size.
Yeah, like there's kind of different like flavors of strong especially in wrestling. He's just very explosive. It's like wherever he's taking you, you're going, and you're going fast.
Yeah.
And not everyone has that skill, and it's kind of like a natural like thing. You can't really teach it or train it in the gym, but he's different.
Well, there's 2 other people at High Tension, and one of them I'm going to say, when it comes to mental mind games and craziness, and a guy you can't prepare for because he looks like he doesn't prepare himself. And when I say that, I don't mean in a negative way. It's just he's like Deadpool. He's unpredictable, and he's not afraid to hurt himself to hurt you. And then when it comes to just pure strength, one of the strongest people I've ever seen in a wrestling ring, and in general in just life, just wrestled a match. And if they won, they got to pick their stipulation. And it's kind of still in the air if they're coming for you and your title, but CC Boost and Max Zero are kind of being thrown around there a little bit too. CC scares the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. He's just intimidating and scary. Once again, he has no care for his own well-being, so he doesn't care about anybody else's. And Max Zero is one of the strongest, scariest human beings I've ever seen in my life as well.
Yeah, Max is a beast, and from watching CC, like, he doesn't scare me per se, but like it's like if you're driving and a car's coming towards you the wrong way on a one-way street. I'm just like, I just kind of want to like out of the way a little bit.
Get out of their way.
And hopefully he crashes and burns on his own.
Yeah. But but there's that chance he'll swerve into you still. You know what I mean? Like
there is that chance. Yeah.
He's unpredictable, man. He scares the ever living out of me. But there's 2 other people there. So if you can say, we'll just talk high tension for now, because that's who we're putting over a little bit heavier here tonight.
Yeah.
You have Tommy Vex coming up. Those 2 are on the radar. Who are some other talent that are floating around HTW, or maybe you can say to HTW, hey, bring this person back in, like a Devontae's or some of the names you said that you would like as a champion to be like, this is a person I want to bring in and give them a title shot because I think they can offer something to this scene or this area of wrestling?
Yeah. So one person that I ran into a lot at Camp Leapfrog, and I've run into for years at different promotions that I've called out for years to wrestle is Darius Carter.
Who?
I'm
Yes,
yeah,
please.
yeah,
I want him ever. He's a name. Sorry to cut you off. He's a
yeah, go.
name that. Remember how I told you before, like if I don't want to lock myself into one promotion.
Yeah,
There's certain promotions where you go, and I'm just gonna be honest. There's promotions I go where I'm like, man, maybe something here is just not clicking for me, or it's not where I want to be. But because
yeah,
these 5 or 6 people on the roster, that'll keep me here forever. Darius
yeah,
Carter is one of those people that if like he was somewhere and someone said, "Hey, we want to sign you as a full-time person," I would literally say, as long as that man's in the building, I won't leave, because he's just so much fun to watch and he's so good and entertaining. He's an amazing talent.
yeah. And it's funny. He likes to push people like in the ring and test people, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to get the opportunity to push back a little bit.
God,
And
Alex, if you're listening in Maestro, can we make that match soon? Jesus Christ. The last time we seen him was with the Goons for a while, but him and Matt Mikowski are still one of is probably the most favorite match I've ever seen at high tension.
Mikowski's incredible.
Yeah. He comes back from injury possibly soon. Maybe that would be a fun one for you too.
Yeah, he's dude, I can't say enough. And I got to meet him like semi recently through like a mutual friend who was hanging out, and he's insanely talented, and he learned stuff very quickly. I could compare him to a lot of people, but I think he takes a lot of different things that in terms of his background, in terms of like technical wrestling, but like mixes it together in a way that I haven't
martial arts
seen. Yeah.
He can hit an armbar from anywhere.
Yes.
He can put you in a torture rack and you end in an armbar. He can put you in a knee bar and end up in an armbar. He can be on the top rope looking for a superplex and it lands into an armbar. Like he can pull that from anywhere.
Yeah, he did a flying armbar off the top rope, and it was one of the most incredible wrestling moves I've ever seen.
It looked like a Spanish fly, but somehow ended in an armbar. It was crazy.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about that dude. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah. And besides those two, any other names you'd like to mix it up with at high tension?
Yeah, I know they're fighting over the Powerball a little bit though. But when Killian or Miles or whoever else wants to kind of put their hand on their Powerball decides when they want to use it, they can call me too.
Ooh, 2 more matches I would love to see. You versus Miles or you versus Killian would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love it. Be great.
That's a great promotion. I'm not just putting them over because I love them all, but that's a promotion where there's a lot of great talent there.
We have a lot of diversely talented people on the roster that bring a lot of different things with it.
Very much so. Yeah, I totally agree with that. If now is tag team wrestling ever been a thing for you? I only really know you as a solo guy, but you have dabbled in tag team.
Yeah, my career like has had a few different chapters, and there was a chapter that was very important for me from probably about 2017 through like 2020, where I was in a tag team with 2 different people, but it operated as 2 different tag teams called Killer Instinct, and eventually it became a tag team of myself and my tag team partner was Kevin Cartwright. And we wrestled a lot at New York Championship Wrestling. We wrestled at Immortal. We wrestled at Excite. And that tag team kind of helped me find myself in a way because tag team wrestling, for whatever reason, feels very natural to me as opposed to singles wrestling. It just like makes sense in my brain. And tag teams, you can mix up so many different like cool combinations of like events in a match. And that kind of being in a tag team helped me kind of have the confidence to approach like how I presented myself as a wrestler, moves I did, etc., in a different way and without as much fear because I knew I had someone super solid to fall back on if I slipped up. So I still tag occasionally, not as much anymore, but any of the Salt City Killers, primarily Jacoby Riddick and I tag a bunch. I tag with ISIS FX in Buffalo, and we wear animal print, and I have a blast doing it. And I still tag with Blackstrom from Camp Leapfrog. We are still accepting
He's another talent that more people need to book him.
Yeah, he's great. It's just we live very far apart, so we're both very busy with wrestling, so it's hard to find
He's
a place
in
to
the Pittsburgh
assemble.
area.
He's
Buffalo.
Jersey.
Oh, he's Jersey.
Yeah.
Why is he not being booked in Jersey as much then? I don't see him ever in Jersey.
I don't know.
I mean,
I think he's good enough.
A lot of Jersey is there's a lot in Jersey. So there's probably stuff I'm still missing, but he is incredibly talented and just a good human. Very nice to be around and very pleasant. And you see him and he's all tattooed up his head and everything. And you're like, oh my goodness. And then you talk to him, you're like, oh, this guy's a sweetheart. Another guy, very good mixed martial arts, I believe Taekwondo and kickboxing. He has a little bit of those backgrounds.
You'd have to ask him, but like everything he does in the ring looks super crisp, and it looks like it's being done by a professional.
His strikes look fantastic.
Yeah.
I just had that question and it left me because I got excited from Blackstream, your tag team thing. Oh, the name, the Moonlight Sun. Yeah. Now, when I first seen it, I thought maybe you were into like the metaphysical world more with the tarot cards and the crystals and that stuff, and maybe so. But then also you showed me a little bit of a layer of yourself this weekend and some stuff I've seen in the past, and that part of it's part of your gear. You're also a big comic book guy, and Moon Knight's a fan of yours, and you wear a Venom mask. So where does this all tie in with the Moon Knight and then the Venom mask, and where do you pull from for this character?
So it's a super common thing to say, but I take it from like different parts of myself and my own personality, because like, yes, like there's a point in time in wrestling where I was just like, oh, I'm just me, and there's nothing like specific I'm trying to do. And with the Moonlight Sun, the name actually came from a friend of mine named Jose, who was helping with a promotion called XWA in Rhode Island. He saw me and he's put my name on a poster, and because I wear fangs in the ring, and he thought I looked like a vampire, so he put Moonlight Sun on a poster, and I thought it was very cool, so I took it. So he gave me the name, and what I've done over time is more and more I've leaned into the name as opposed to me coming up with something and putting a name on it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like
when it comes back to that character thing, like I don't hate anything that you're doing, but just from a fan standpoint, it is tough to trying to nail down where you're at here, like because you have the tarot cards, agree. And then you have the Venom mask, and then you're like talking to you, and then you went and bought a Moon Knight comic. I was like, oh, well, where's this? That's why I'm trying to pick your brain a little bit. It's kind of but I do like how you're saying that it's bits and pieces of other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a super valid point as well, because it's something I'm still trying to figure out. It's something I'm trying to like think of different ways to present that are like easier to digest.
Yeah.
And it's tough because a lot of people are fans of like Undertaker, or like even a more modern example like Malachi Black. And I'm very hesitant to go too far into their territory, or to feel like I'm doing something that's a ripoff of what they're doing. So
absolutely, you want to be original.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to find my own lane, and maybe it's my apprehension of not taking a full nosedive into something I'm feeling in terms of like how I present myself, or maybe I'm just like kind of grasping at straws of like, oh, I like this thing, oh, I like this thing. Let me throw it on and see how people react to it. But I still haven't found where like I'm sticking with it, and I wish I had like a more concrete answer of like it's this or it's this, but it's almost like trying to describe myself as a person. Like I know plenty about myself. I've known myself my whole life, but I don't always know the words. So I'm just going with how I feel in the ring, how I feel when I'm talking, and what emotion or mental state I'm in at the time, and just kind of trying to push the walls out for it.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me into my next thing. What your personality? Knowing you for as long as I have, and had what I felt like was some pretty deep conversations. You're very quiet. You're very reserved. In the locker room, you're by yourself. But it's not to be disrespectful. Just kind of you said before, you're someone who can just fall under the radar. You don't want to be the spotlight. You're kind of in the moonlight sun. You know what I mean? You're hiding in the dark, but just enough on you that you can still see who you are. how now realistically in this business and anything, I kind of do the same thing. Like I'm a little bit of a more of a loudmouth and I get myself in trouble sometimes, but like, how do you navigate being, that talent who lets your actions speak for you, but also, navigate that and also try to advance yourself as a professional too, because sometimes it comes down to the loudest in the locker room gets heard, or
Definitely.
anything. And it, for me anyway, at least it's frustrating because you're like, man, I'm trying to do everything the right way, but someone's just a little more loud, or they're a little more to put themselves out there, or they're willing to take more risks, or speak up or say stuff, and then you kind of fall back because you're kind of like you're just kind of just chilling. And here's where I think high tension is a great spot for you, because earlier I said, I think you were picked probably to be a champion for exactly the reason why you are, your personality wise. But how has that been tough for you going in? Like, I've only ever seen you in like internet beef one time. Like, for the most part, you just stay to yourself. You know what I mean? You're like, hey,
Yeah.
I just want to stay to myself. I don't want any issues. How has that been career wise, of just going in, doing the job and getting out, rather than kind of being the loud guy or the most boisterous? Because even as a character in wrestling, you don't trash talk, you don't say a lot. You're like, hey, even your promo is like, hey, I'm excited for the fight, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna kick your ass and I'm getting out of there. You know what I mean? Like,
Man, you gotta watch some more of my Excite stuff, because I've been talking all kinds of trash about,
I
like,
know, that's what I'm saying.
everyone in
This
that
Excite thing, it
promotion.
really got you in a different vibe, which I'm into.
Yeah, like, I approach wrestling, and I still do, as like part sport, part business, and
Mm-hmm.
I got to a certain point, like, maybe it was just like getting older, or maybe it was just being in wrestling too long and being sick of it. But like, I don't really care to be part of anyone's drama, and there are plenty of people in wrestling that, and some of the same ones, probably some of the same names are floating through our heads right now, that are just spinning negative stuff all the time, and they thrive off of that negative energy and having people talk about something, even if it's not positive. And it got to a point where that kind of stuff made me sick. So I'm just like, I I love people. I love going and making friends in the business, in the locker room. But I'm also like, I have a lot of people that I'm close to in wrestling that I'm cool with and I'm secure with. So I'm gonna show up to do my job and what I'm being paid for, and I'm going to be polite. And if I strike up some really cool conversations with people, which I normally tend to at every show, that's cool. If I do my match, get paid, shake everyone's hand, and leave, that's cool with me too. And I don't think a lot of my peers can handle approaching it like that, because it kind of turns into like high school. Everyone
Oh,
kind of wants it to
he
be
thinks
high
he's
school.
too good. He came into the locker, didn't say nothing to nobody. He sat by himself. You know what I
I mean,
mean?
yeah, and not even that as much. That, yes, but like, as a whole, like, wrestling is very clicky. It's very high school. So a lot of times too, people will attach themselves to a group, or like, who's influential, in order to get something out of wherever they
We
are.
call that clout chasing, children.
Yeah, and it happens a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying I haven't done it before, and I might do it again, but it's, I don't know. I think talent rises to the top, honestly, if you put yourself in positions to be seen.
Mhm.
And I I think one thing that I feel very confident about is, if I think I have like a little crack to get through a door into a company, um, I will I will drive and I will go there and I'll help out. But I'll bug people to be like, hey, give me a chance to show you what I got. And I'm confident that way more often than not, if someone sees what I can bring to the table in person, and is around me as a person, I can get my way into that promotion. I can make money
Yeah,
for
I got to take a little more of the Mike Skyros pill in my personal diet every day, because I have to learn to
that.
stay a little more quiet and just stay to myself. And if I see something I don't like, maybe not speak up to it as much, because
Yeah.
I get a little hard in the pain sometimes.
Here's another thing. Like, I forget who I was talking to about this, but I was like, fans watch wrestling and come to wrestling shows to get away from all the BS of real life. And even though they're not physically there, when they see that kind of stuff online, I've had plenty of people tell me that, like, people beefing over whatever online, it's a bummer. It makes them not want to be around wrestling, because like, they just want to follow their favorite wrestlers and see what their moves and what their next match is and support them. They don't want to see all this like bickering and chirping.
Yeah,
Like, there's
dude.
certain people that like it because it's exciting, but ultimately a lot of people are turned off by that.
Dude, you can have the best fucking, we'll just use Philly example. You get the best cheesesteak in town, but if your social media for your presence is like, hey, we have the best cheesesteak, but also we shit all the time here, and we shit on the cheesesteak industry, and we think cheesesteaks are the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Why the fuck would I go to you? Like, you're shitting on your own business. You're shitting where you sleep. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's tough. It's fucking hard. I just gotta learn to zip it and go do my job and leave. But no, I definitely that about your personality is very fun. That's why I'm kind of excited with this Excite thing, because that Excite thing has kind of pulled a side of you out that I've never seen before, and I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. And because like I said, and it's we've talked about it personally, and how we talk about Watrowski and other talent too. Like they're like, yo, Skyros has everything, but he just needs that one extra thing. And even you said yourself during this interview, you're kind of waiting for that one piece to fall in place. Like if it's character, if it's this, if it's just that one like aha moment, you know what I mean? And I think, because you're talented, man, and everything speaks for itself. But once that last piece falls in place, man, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of people have said, a lot of people have said that to me in like different forms, and I do want to make it clear, like I'm not like kind of waiting for something to happen as much as I'm trying to like pull the trigger on the right thing, and maybe I just need to throw something at the wall. But that's just kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, no, I think the path you're going is fine. I think you're doing everything the right way. It's just like whatever it's gonna be, whatever your opponent is, whatever feud you get in, that's gonna be like that pulls something out of you. Because right now, I think a lot, and it could be promotions too. And this is not shitting on promotions. I'm just talking as a fan, because at the end of the day, if you're still hiring me for production or commentary, or you hire me for interviews, or you hire me for ring announcing now, please don't. I still come at it from a fan perspective. Like, I love professional wrestling. I love watching it. I love talking it. I love dissecting it. I love the psychological things, whether it be behind the curtain or not. I feel like right now you're going out and you're putting on 5-star matches, but maybe we need someone to challenge you, and not just in the ring. We need someone to challenge you promo wise. We need someone for you to get into a feud with. We need something where it's not just a one show off next opponent type deal. We need, like, I think you need to find, like every good hero, you need your super villain. You need and maybe it is Shankar at Excite, or maybe it could be someone coming up at HDW. But I think that might be the piece to set you apart of being in a long-term feud, or a long-term exposed feud where more people are getting into it and picking sides. And maybe you had like that Bret Hart moment where everyone loved Bret, but then they're conflicted because they like Shawn too, like something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think that might be the thing that could be like, you're like, fuck, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, I
agree with you. And like, I really, like, I seek that out to be like tested in those different types of ways. So I think that could very well do it. And it's funny because a lot of people in wrestling, I think, are like, they just want to do moves as opposed to being storytellers.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm the best storyteller in the world, but I would much rather tell stories. And if I have something to sink my teeth into in terms of like a narrative or a back and forth with someone,
something to pull the trigger on.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I do my best stuff. And if you look at Excite Wrestling or Pro Wrestling Grind, I think I've proven that.
Yeah, you're passionate, like not passionate, but you're invested into that story because there's something to it. And I think more promotions, like I think it's tough for a promoter and on the indie scene for them, because they don't have teams of writers like TV does. So a lot of times as a promoter's like, hey, I like you and I like you, I want you to work something, and then it kind of comes down to the talent to see where they pull each other from. You know, they cut that first promo and then you cut your promo, and they might not even have watched your promo, and then you show up the day of the show and you put together insert ABC match, and that's fine. It works, and the fans are excited because it puts together a great match because they're two talented people. But it's those promos, and we'll use your opponent like Tommy, which I think Tommy's going to be fun, because Tommy's gonna cut a promo. Tommy's gonna get vicious. He's gonna get gross.
I hope so.
And I kind of want to see maybe you get a little gross back, or see where that conflicting is. Like, that's where for me the independent scene shines, and I don't think enough people do it. They just kind of like, oh, I have to cut a promo for a show this weekend, especially a commentary. I can tell more of a story if I can watch your promos all week leading up to it. But if you cut the same "I'm a tough guy, I'm going to beat you up" promo, that doesn't do anything for anybody. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's fun. I'm excited for that to kind of be a thing for you. That's why, like I said, excite. I can't wait to go there because I think you and Sean have that chemistry.
And you know what's funny too? Like I hate the "I'm a tough guy and I beat you up" promo. I equally hate the "I respect you, but I'm gonna have to win a wrestling match" type promo. It's lame. I think John Cena was talking about in a documentary, like, F that. Like, I want to see two dudes that like have a beef over something.
Yeah. Or anything, on the scene right now, and I hate to put him over again, but because he's a damn dirty scumbag. But Ricky Price on the promo side of thing, that kid's entertaining. He's putting together funny promos. He's at shows, dude. He's like, all right, let me put my match together. But he's also setting time to be like, hey, we're booked next week. Do you mind cutting something real quick with me because I want to use it for something here later? Like, that's good to I love when a locker room is creative like that. And that was the thing about Leapfrog. Everyone's like, hey, we're putting together a skit before our match. Like, what would be funny with our skit? Let's do this with the skit. Let's do that. And I kind of hope that maybe that picks up again with High Tension, because I think they're still in the early phases where they're trying to find their venues and things like that, and they're trying to find that flow because they were a pandemic company. Now they're trying to figure themselves as a new company. But I think like with that locker room, I think it'd be fun. Like they're doing it now. The last show I seen people going around and filming stuff and doing stuff, and I think that's where it's going to shine. Not just what's happening in the ring, but when you watch it back, you're like, oh, that was neat. You know what I mean? That excites me at wrestling shows.
Yeah, that's so much fun, and I really hope he does. Like, Leapfrog and High Tension, I've had a lot of phenomenal matches, but I really haven't had someone specifically like go at me like that, and especially for any sort of sustained like period of time. So I'd like to see it. I'd like to see how it happened.
Maybe Tommy's that guy.
Maybe he is, and I would like to see what the fans, how they react to it and what they think. So.
Yeah. The fans have been great. We were talking a little bit before during the show, and I'll pull the curtain back, but they're like, man, like the crowd's good here tonight. And then like, they're like, well, we could have done, I'm like, they're talking like analytical stuff. And I was like, do you realize that you put a show on the same day as the biggest con in this city? No one runs this city. There's the biggest con that just happened 3 blocks away. And then there's a show happening later on tonight, and people still chose in that middle gap to be here. And it was a big crowd. It was a nice crowd for only being there twice. You know what I mean? And the crowd was super into what you were putting on in the ring. They knew the characters. They knew who to boo. They knew who to cheer. That's a good start for that company.
It is. I think as long as we keep like putting bricks on that foundation, like that's going to pay off big time, because I agree with you completely. Like you see more and more each show, they're understanding like who they want to get with, what each individual wrestler is all about, and it's very cool. And it's definitely like different flavors than you're going to see at another wrestling company because of the characters involved.
Yeah. Well, besides professional wrestling, what else are some of your passions or stuff you're into? And if anyone has any questions, if you're here live in the chat, start putting them in, because we are getting close to the end here.
Yeah. I'm really into basketball. Like pretty much the only sport I follow like closely at all is NBA basketball. So I love NBA basketball.
Who's your team?
My team is the Timberwolves, and they hurt me so much. Like the anguish I've had being a fan of this team for over 20 years it's horrible. Yeah. But they're in a playoff spot right now, so I kind of hope they stay there.
I was introduced. This is how I got into basketball. My dad said, hey, there's this guy named Michael Jordan. You're going to like him. And also, this is the sport he dominates. So that's how I got into basketball. And then as I got older, the Bulls just did everything they possibly can to ruin my heart. They're like, hey, we have this great team and this great people. We're going to fire everybody. Just like they did with Jordan. Like, they're like, oh, Derrick Rose, fired. Joakim Noah, fired. Like, get rid of everybody. So then I was like, you know what? I'll still have a spot by heart for Chicago, because that's what my first team I picked. But I kind of switched teams when I got to be an adult, and all my teams for the most part are DC based. So I went with the Wizards, and Jordan played there for a little bit there too.
He did. Yeah, I think that's like the most 90s introduction to basketball too,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I know I started, the only thing I knew about basketball when I was like a little kid was like Michael Jordan played it, and he was also in Space Jam.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Michael Jackson video.
Yes. Yeah. It's exclusive club.
Anything else besides basketball? What else are you into?
Yeah, I really would like to get back into this, but I really dig like radio, like FM radio, and I went to college for it was journalism for a while, and I spent like my entire college career doing like rock radio, and it was the funnest thing in the world. And then I got into the world and I tried climbing the ladder in radio, and it was awful. I'm like, I don't want to do that, but I really am like actively working on means to like do some sort of either Twitch or IG Live or TikTok Live, like rock radio show just for myself. And if people want to hang out, they can come hang out.
So this is where me podcasting for 5 years and doing everything besides professional wrestling this is where I get excited, because people tell me stuff and I'm like, I might have a piece to put these two together. So you should check out iRock Radio. It's a guy from like the Harrisburg area, and he runs an online radio station, and he's always looking for people to like cut audio thing where like you set up a playlist and he records it and puts everything together, and then your playlist plays for like, it's one of those things where you set it up and then it plays for a couple weeks and then you change it up. But it's a small introduction to getting part of a radio station, a rock station. And you can also like, you can be like, hey, I sought out these pretty cool indie thing, like indie bands, can I maybe give them some exposure and stuff like that? But definitely look at iRock Radio.
That's super cool. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and I actually did an interview with him. They invited me to when Fozzy played. They had they kind of were like the main sponsor of the venue that Fozzy was at. So they invited me to come to the Fozzy concert. I got to see Fozzy play, and they brought me up into the VIP section. Super cool guys, super cool guy. And reach out and say if that's what you're passionate about and you like doing on the side, tell him I sent you. And he loves pro wrestling. He's a huge pro wrestling fan. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a cool little connection there.
I will. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I also loved radio. I got in, my favorite thing was Howard Stern growing up. So that's why I always like to talk radio and the interviews and talking about things that are probably taboo, because they fascinate me. So that was kind of my thing too. I also love music, but I just love people. I love storytelling, like the journal side of that. Like whether you like to admit it or hear or not, like sure, this is an interview, but I didn't want to put interview in the title of my podcast, because like I'm essentially trying to get like a small snippet of like a journal diary for you. Like if you look back in 10 years, like, oh, that was Skyros in 2023. Like that's what I like to capture here, and that's what fascinates me.
That's an interesting way to look at it too, because I've looked at, me and one of my old tag partners watched an interview we did in like 2016 or 2017, and I was completely different, and I almost can't watch it because it feels like I'm watching someone else.
Yeah. We have one question in the chat, and it's from someone you wrestled. And here's real quick before I say his question. I didn't doubt, but I was nervous for this kid, because he's about as green as that stripe on Italian flag behind them. And I said to myself, like, this kid's new to the game. He's figuring himself out. He has a good character. He's working his ass off, even though his character in this photo, he doesn't look like a mobster. He looks like a really angry bowler. He loves that, by the way. But I felt going into that show, he might have bit off more than he can chew, wrestling a veteran like yourself. And I thought for how little time this kid's been in the business, he fucking held his own. And you guys didn't do like a 5-6 minute match. You guys put some time under it. And it was a really good match. And Donnie really held his own against what I thought was really tough competition. And I thought he put on a great fucking performance.
Yeah. So there's like a couple different ways. Like there's people in wrestling that would approach that situation and decide like, oh, I'm either going to go through the motions, or I'm going to chew this kid up and spit him out. And really what helped form my opinion on him was the interview that you guys did, and the conversation that you guys had really let me look at like how he approached wrestling and like a little bit of how like he was as a person. And I was super impressed, and I really wanted to push him as much as I felt comfortable pushing him into like having a match that was a step up, or at least like us taking a swing at a match that was a step up. And I thought he like he worked as hard and brought as much effort to the table as anyone I've wrestled, and I was very happy to be in the ring with him. And what I would like to see him do now is challenge himself more. Don't get comfortable. If you know of, I know like Cheeseburger has a school where there are a lot of high level people that come in. There's a lot of schools in New England and New Jersey where there's a lot of high level people that come in. If you can't get a match with someone that's more experienced because you're brand new and bookings aren't always easy, go to those places and seek out those people, and they will be more than happy to help. Put yourself in situations and matches that are uncomfortable. But I think if he continues to do that, sorry, I went into like motivational speech mode.
No, I love this. I think it's crazy
but,
that this all came, like, your respect and the way this match went together is because of my podcast. That's kind of dope.
Yeah, because I never know when I'm showing up to wrestle someone, like before, after, during, like what kind of person they're going to be. And a lot of people are, even that I don't know, are very disappointing, or they bum me out with how they approach wrestling. And he was very much the opposite. Like, I was very much like looking forward to the match even more.
Look at my podcast helping in scouting reports. I love
like 100%.
that.
100%. Yes.
You just made my fucking day. But let's get to Donnie's question. Favorite comic book character, but you can't say Venom.
Moon Knight's my favorite, even above Venom. Like, I have probably like 100 Moon Knight comics in the thing next to me over here. That's my dude, and I just think he's a super cool character, and I've been a fan ever since he was in the Marvel Ultimate Alliance game, 2006.
Love that. When someone said to me, they're like, "Oh, Moon Knight is just Batman with a mental disorder," and I look, I like started researching Moon Knight. I'm like, no, he's not. He has supernatural powers and he can do things, and he's so complex. Like, I love Batman. He's one of my favorites. But to say Moon Knight is Batman is ridiculous. If anything, Black Panther's more of a Batman than anything, more than Moon Knight is. You know, even Black Panther's original costume looked like Batman's costume. But no, Moon Knight's a really, really cool character.
Yeah,
and when the show came out
too is completely different, like completely opposite to Batman in terms of like being a vigilante and all that stuff.
Yeah. The only thing that I would say, like, what made me nervous was Moon Knight is the show came out and I watched it, and I was nervous how people were going to take it. I was like, this might be too much for people. Like, because the Marvel characters they kind of laid out for people in the first 3 phases have been very cut and dry, golden baby face heel characters. If we're going to use, and a lot of the characters are trying to lean into now are way more complex. And I think I thought Moon Knight was going to be someone that I think would fall under the radar because he's a little more complex than people can wrap their head around. Yeah.
And like, I know a lot of people didn't like the show, but I thought the show was a great representation of the series. And it shows that, like, I think people do want to get into something more complex because I think a lot of people have hated that Marvel movies have kind of fallen into a formula, and that show broke away from that formula to a degree. And
that whole series. So this has been my favorite phase of Marvel, and it hasn't really been the movies. It's been like the TV with the movie.
I agree.
Like WandaVision, fantastic. She-Hulk, fantastic. Moon Knight, fantastic. I didn't see Black Widow, and I haven't seen Shang-Chi, and I haven't seen Hawkeye yet. But like Doctor Strange's movie, fantastic. Like everything that they put out this season, I've been a fan of because it wasn't that formula, and they treated you like an adult when you were watching it. Black Panther, fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was a good, I don't know, I loved it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up here, man. I want to say thank you so much. I know I talked about it on the podcast. I think it's a clip coming up soon, or I might have dropped it. I don't remember. I'm all over the place, but I want to say, like, the fact that you listen and you support me means the fucking world to me, because you know, I see the numbers, but I never know who's behind the numbers. And like, you reaching out that day, like I was in a bad day that day, and you reaching out and be like, hey man, I was driving the show, I listened to your podcast, and gave me criticism and feedback and stuff, and it really meant a lot to me. So like, for you to be someone who respects me enough to come on the show, but also someone who listens to the content that they're going to come on, is hard to get by, and not a lot of people do it. And if they do, I don't know if they do it or not. But dude, you're a stand-up dude. You're the you're more than just the champion in a promotion for me, man. You're a champion human being. You represent yourself very well. So you're someone I'm very, very happy I met in this business, and I value our friendship, and I think you're a good dude, man. I think more people should be a fan of Mike Skyros. Even if he turns into a bad guy at some point, still support him. This is why I like the podcast, where I can kind of break kayfabe walls, because I want people to learn about the person as well as their character. So I do a little kayfabe and not kayfabe, and I think I think the formula's been really well. But dude, I really appreciate the support you've been giving me in the podcast realm, in the ring announcing the other day when I was fucking terrified, like commentary. You've always been someone who's shown support in roles that not a lot of people give a fuck that they're even there in the professional wrestling world. And you're someone I value a lot, and I like you a lot, and I want you to keep killing it.
I appreciate that a ton, and it's super flattering. And I think sometimes like the universe brings those messages to you at like a really good time. So I'm really glad that got to you in that way. And I try to tell this to the guys that are like coming out of my school that I ride with. It's like, I know what it's like to be, and I still get nervous a lot of the time. I know what it's like to be the person like a super uncomfortable new situation. I know what it's like to be that person that has to like put away the ring at the end of the night or have a match I'm not like prepared for. So I try to help out where I can. I'm not perfect, but you know, I really try to like be cool to people for the most part. So I'm glad that you appreciate it.
I don't know 90% of those. I knew like 2 people who were helping me tearing down the ring after the show that night, and I was kind of getting up. Then I had a long drive ahead of me, and I don't really do a lot of ring stuff, and it's not because I think I'm better than it. It's just because like I don't know what I'm doing, and I have a bad body, and I don't want to hurt myself as well. I have done ring stuff before, but I would feel like I'm more on the way than I am helping. But like how I was saying that people don't like, there's sometimes where things don't get acknowledged, but like leaving that show that night, I went around to every single person putting the ring together. I'm like, yo, thank you. You're doing the Lord's work, because nobody wants to do this thing. Like, thank you. Seriously. I have no idea 100%. Who half you are, but like you're like, that's a part of the shows that the fans don't get to see. You know what I mean? Like setting that stuff up and everything. But that's the thing that they talk about when they leave, you know? But no, man, you're definitely a class act, and you're definitely somebody I learned from, even if you're not realizing it. And this conversation has been fantastic, and it only heightened what I thought of you as a person. And I hope we keep hanging out more. Icons was fun, dude. I would keep doing conventions with wrestlers if they want to share a table with me, because I think it was really fun to hang out with people for the day and really get to know them, because I think they make for better interviews. And I think I think there's a lot of people in the independent scene who do commentary or do content, but I don't think a lot of people can pull a conversation out because they don't generally know the people they're talking to. And I think that's what definitely stands out. So I thank you for your time, man. The door's always open.
Thank you, bro.
If you ever want to come on one of my review shows, I have the movie reviews coming, but it's movie, television, comic book movies. If you ever want to bullshit and hang out, another person, maybe putting pieces together, you should look up a buddies of mine called the Pool Box Pals. They're a comic book podcast that I'm really good friends with, and every week they talk about what pools they got that month and what they're into. So you should reach out to be a guest and talk comic books with them, and tell them I sent you.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. I'm definitely going to reach out to both the radio and the podcast you just mentioned. So it's
awesome,
cool.
Man. I love putting people together that are in different realms, and I think it's really cool. Donnie, thank you for the questions. Matthew, B-Ride, nothing popped up, so I don't know what you said. He's another good dude. Steven Chambers, everybody else in chat, for hanging out. Matthew Holland, brother, I know you're here. I don't know if you're still here, but literally, bro, I thought you were coming to the High Tension show. I talked to his parents. It was his birthday weekend. He's been watching my content for a while, and he showed up at Icons literally 15 minutes after we left, because we had to go get ready. We had to go get ready for the show. But I appreciate Matthew for trying to come out. I'm sorry I was not there. It was not intentional. I cannot wait to see you at some point. We will do it again very soon. But thank you for coming out, supporting Icons, and going to the con. And Bambino, going to close this out with a great interview. I kept setting timers for it, and it was well worth the wait. Yeah, we kept changing the time a little bit. But I appreciate it. I thought it was fun doing it at midnight. This is the latest podcast we've ever done.
There we go.
But let's get out of here. Make sure you check the links below. Like I said, merchandise, follow my guests and support them with their stuff. Brand new logo out again. I'll pop it up. The duct tape logo. That's dope as fuck. No one's ever wore a shirt to the ring. I'm just saying. Never's been done. So Anyone out there? Get rid of that dumb bowling shirt, Donnie, and get you a I Heart ABJ shirt. I actually did an Italian flag of the NWO. I thought was funny. But anyway, also the outro music and logos of the people, Haley Stokes, and the music by Billy Trey in the links below in my link tree. Go support them. And we're going to leave here with some music by Billy Trey. We'll see you guys next time. We're out of here.